One, two.
Right, so this system here has two classic pieces of rock and roll history. We'll start off with the Altec Voice of the Theatre system. Altec formed in the early 1940s and were part of the American revolution in cinema sound. RCA and Westrex and Western Audio, Western Electric, they all formed to do, because the movie theatre business in America was really prominent in the 1930s. So these speaker cabinets and also the RCA W bin design, which we'll talk about later, these large speaker cabinets and large sectoral horns were part of the cinema system, and it was realised around the time of Woodstock, sort of 67, 68, Monterey, 69, Monterey, Woodstock, Altamont, the Grateful Dead, and large festivals, that the way to get bands amplified was to use the same cabinets as a cinema. So the Altec systems started to be imported into Europe through an English company acting as agents for the American company. The English company was called Theatre Projects. I think they may have had a branch in Paris as well. And Theatre Projects brought in the Altec systems from America, and they also later brought in the JBL system. Altec was called Altec Lansing, and then James B. Lansing left the Lansing family and went off and formed James B. Lansing, which was abbreviated to JBL. So there is a link between Altec and JBL. A lot of the principles of cabinet design and horn design, there's similar ranges within Altec and JBL, so that there's quite a similarity. But the whole rock and roll business really exploded round about the mid 1970s, when even a band playing a pub would start to take large bass bins and horns like this in, and then the mid-range cabinet came next. So whereas this is a two-way system, crossed over with a passive crossover made from capacitors, the next step up was to put a mid-range in, and then we'd move on to the Martin audio system. On the amplifier front, we talked yesterday about the WEM 100 watt slave being the first thing where you could link lots of amplifiers together, but it was a similar size to this, not quite as heavy, and it was 100 watts in one box. This, the American Crown, later known as Amcron, the DC300A revolutionised the rock and roll industry. Bands like Pink Floyd and The Who immediately snapped these up and imported them from America, because you could get round about 400 watts out of this single box. So you would rack these up, and compared to 100 watt WEM, which was the same physical size in terms of dimensions, this was 4 times as powerful. So you could put racks of these on the road and get much more power in them. So that these two American products, really, Altec and Crown and JBL, and then the next amplifier to come along was called a Phase Linear 700, and that would give you 400 watts a channel in a very, very similar size to that. So you were looking at like 800 watts RMS in one box. So the whole thing really kicked off in the mid to late 70s with power amplifiers, and then lots of other companies appeared on the scene, like Recording Studio Design, Turner, BGW, but the groundbreaking ones were the Amcron and the Phase Linear, and in the American speaker side, Altec and JBL.